Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Ina alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our Hadith class. And this is the Hadith class wherein we are discussing the Hadiths from the book compiled by Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli entitled Live Longer with Less Time. And let's put the Hadith up on the screen for discussion tonight. And this is a Hadith that we all need to ponder, especially during this beautiful, it didn't come out right, but especially during this beautiful month of Ramadan. Okay, and this is the hadith whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to recite Suratul Kafirun. If a person recites Suratul Kafirun, it's equivalent to reciting 1/4 of the Quran. And to recite Suratul Ikhlas is equivalent to 1/3. Kafirun, this is the surah of the Quran in which Allah is addressing the unbelievers. Kuya ayyuhal kafirun. You know, Allah is telling us to say to them, you know, to them be their way, basically, and to we be ours. We're not going to believe what they believe. They're not going to believe what we believe. So to them be their way, and to we be ours. And why is it 1/4 of the Quran? Because we're dealing with that every day. Okay, GERD coming. Because we're dealing with having to address the unbelievers and the hypocrites every day. You know, they are always questioning our way of life. They're always questioning why we practice Islam the way we do. Why is it we don't date? Why is it we don't smoke? Why is it we don't party? Why is it that we cover up? You know, so the bottom line is they're not going to believe, you know, even if we sit down and explain it to them, they're not going to accept it. They're not going to believe it, just like we're not going to accept what they have to say. So to them be their way, to us be ours. If you recite that short surah, it's as if you recited 1/4 of the Quran, because that one surah has that much power, because we're faced with this every day in our life. And why is it that the Ikhlas, Qul hu Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, why is that equivalent to 1/3? Because this is telling us about Allah. That's the one short surah that's telling us that Allah is one. He has no partners, and that he doesn't need anyone. And that's 1/3 of the message of the Quran. 1/3 of the Quran is about Allah. The second third of the Quran is the history. And the third part of the Quran are the rules, the laws, the guidance. So reciting Qul hu Allahu ahad, it's as if you've recited 1/3 of the Quran, because 1/3 of the Quran is spent teaching, telling us about Allah and to believe in him. Just as 1/4 of the Quran is spent addressing the unbelievers, trying to let them know that we're not going to change. You know, we're not going to accept what they say, and they're not going to accept what we say. So these are two virtuous surahs of the Quran. And that's why for the new people that convert to Islam, this is why we strongly encourage them to try to learn after the Fatiha, of course. The only Quran that you have to recite when you pray is Al-Fatiha. You don't have to recite anything else. But we try to at least encourage the new Muslims to learn the Ikhlas and to learn Al-Kafirun, because these two surahs, reciting just them is like reciting 1/3 and 1/4 of the Quran in and of itself. Okay, so now that I've explained this hadith, how does it impact you in your personal life? Go ahead.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum
Can you
salam.
hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you could have really said it. I mean, beautiful than what you just said, you know? And like you said, these two kudos are really a good kudo to reflect on, especially in our daily life. Like, for example, Al Kafirin, he always teaches me to be firm in my faith, is that, and to also, never have doubts, and that don't let, the disbelievers, like let them worship what they're worshiping, like I said, and you worship what you worshiping. And it just shows me how, what's it called? And it shows me how, there's so many, and also, sorry, and it also shows me to now, allow others to, um, come between, my relationship with Allah, and sort of a class, it teaches me to try to, earn Allah's love. So the two students are really meaningful. That's probably why, like you said, they're just like this Hadith said, they're one fourth of the Quran, because it might not be important to other people, but it's really important to some of us.
Exactly. Your sound is kind of mumbled, so I couldn't hardly understand you, but I got some of it. Exactly, guys. These two surahs, you want to encourage your children too, especially during this month of Ramadan. We're in the second week of fasting as we're working on taqwa Allah. We're working on trying to establish taqwa Allah. One of the things that we talked about, how to spend our time, this is a good opportunity to teach your children these two short surahs, because these two short surahs are easy to learn, and just reciting them is reciting, a third and a fourth of the Quran. Yes, go ahead, Sister Latifa. Did you want to speak? You had your mic on. Okay, Sabrine, go ahead.
This brings to mind this hadith, that words certainly have power, and it doesn't take a lot of words. When what you say is truth, it's especially when you're talking about al kafirun, and you're saying, instead of trying to sit down there and plead and try to convince these people of what you feel and who you are and this and that, and they walk away still feeling the way that they felt before you even started talking to them. So it's really a waste of time. So it's like saying, to you be your way and to me be mine, and just get on. Just instead of arguing and fighting about, it just doesn't make sense, and it's a powerful surah that I would recommend for everybody to learn, and to everyone to teach their children. And then the other surah too, because you're speaking of Allah and you're telling them about, you speaking of, Ikhlas, we've heard so many fables and myths about God, about Allah, that wasn't even true, that he fathered a son and all this kind of stuff. It really brings to mind the truth of what we should all know, and something that we should keep in mind. Even though these surahs are short, they're very powerful.
Exactly. And that's the whole purpose of that El Kafirun. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day happened to come upon two men arguing. It was a Muslim arguing with a Jew. And that's when the Prophet stopped them. He said, no, we don't sit around arguing with the unbelievers. He said, this is not what we do. Instead, we recite El Kafirun. We're not going to believe what they believe. They're not going to believe what we believe. So to them be their way, and to we be ours. And this is something that Muslims today need to be reminded of, because too many young men spend their time arguing Islam versus Christianity, Islam versus Judaism. Islam the Prophet was not sent to do that. What is the point in arguing with the unbelievers? They're not going to accept what you say. All you're going to do is make them more angry and make them more hostile towards us, and make them think of us as being more barbaric. We're not supposed to debate the religion. This is a sin in and of itself. And then, like she said, Ikhlas, this is 1/3 of the Quran. 1/3 of the Quran is all about Allah, who he is, how he is what he is, okay, how he does what he does, and how we should try to emulate his names, emulate his attributes. So again, since we're in this month of Ramadan, a great thing to do with your children is to teach them these two surahs. If you join us here at Sunnahfollowers on Sundays, that's one of the things that Sister Summer is doing. She's teaching the kids the Ikhlas, the Al-Kafirun, and the Falak and the Nash. Those are two other surahs that we should have encourage our children and new Muslims to learn. So try to join that class with your kids, you know, on Sundays at 1 o'clock, so they can learn the Ikhlas, so they can learn Al-Kafirun. And again, let's put the hadith up on the screen for one last visit. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Surat Al-Kafirun is equivalent to 1/4 of the Quran. Why? Because Allah spends 1/4 of the Quran admonishing the unbelievers. And Surat Al-Ikhlas is equivalent to 1/3. Why? Because 1/3 of the Quran is based on Allah telling us about Him. So I want to thank everybody for joining and participating in this session of our Hadith class. Please make sure everyone is here for the classes tomorrow. I will try to broadcast. No, I won't be here. I won't be here for the Juma time because I got an appointment. Okay, but try to be here for the other classes tomorrow. Don't forget the 6 o'clock class with me on how to make the most of Ramadan. And also we have the Hadith class tomorrow night too. So subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu